following information is proudly brought to you by the National Center for Wellness.
One of the things that I want to kind of help people outline is the difference between immunity and vaccination. In terms of, you talk in there, and we're going to get into some of the questions about risks for mom down the road. So if we back up the conversation, we started with immunity. Can you outline or give an overview or discuss briefly just immunity in general, and then the difference between if you catch, say, chickenpox versus a vaccine for chickenpox? How is that different in your body?
Yeah, immunity simply means your immune system can fight something off. We usually would think that your immune system has already seen that illness and already has antibodies and white blood cells ready to specifically attack and defend against that specific illness. We would consider someone immune to that illness, or they have immunity.
Okay.
We think of immunity as 100%, but if you're going to actually say you're immune to something, but I doubt anyone's ever 100% immune to anything. Nothing's 100% perfect, but okay. That's kind of what we mean, about immunity. And we might also think of immunity as naturally occurring. Say, for example, you catch chickenpox, your immune system has seen the virus, has fought it off. Now you have immunity that was naturally induced to that virus. The rest of your life, that immunity might decrease a little bit. It might never be perfect, but it's pretty good immunity. You contrast that with vaccine-induced immunity. Say someone doesn't catch chickenpox and instead they get the chickenpox vaccine. That's a live virus vaccine. We're trying to simulate the disease. Okay. We do it fairly well, but not perfectly. But by simulating the disease, your immune system then creates some antibodies against that vaccine germ, and those antibodies float around in your immune system. We can measure those antibodies to make sure you have them, and we think they're pretty effective, and I say they are somewhat effective. And it's certainly not as good immunity or as complete immunity as having the disease would give you. Okay. But the whole goal there is to try to avoid the disease altogether. And so I think it works pretty well. I'd say natural immunity is always going to be better and last longer, but you're also then risking the disease in order to gain that natural immunity. And you could argue that may be safe in some situations, and it might be not safe in some situations.
Okay. If you were to propose a research plan, a goal, a strategy for where we really should be putting our time, effort, and money, what would you recommend? How would you do that?
Wow, my wish list.
There you go.
There are definitely things about vaccines and about these diseases that have not been researched that I really wish we could research. I have not seen one single research study that's been published that looks at the immune systems of children and examines what vaccines do with the immune systems of children. We know the vaccines provide antibody levels against the disease. Right. And we know that vaccines give you some of that immunity that hopefully will then protect you against the diseases. We know vaccines work somewhat and give you those antibodies. But what I like to know is, what do vaccines do to the rest of your immune system? Do vaccines trigger, do they elevate the allergic part of your immune system? Do vaccines make you more prone to allergies? Do vaccines lower other parts of your immune system? The immune system is in a constant balance. If one part is high, the other part has to be low. You can't have your entire immune system high. It's all in balance. Right. If allergies are up, immunity is probably down.
Right.
If immunity is up, allergies might be down or might be well balanced. So if vaccines are doing something to help provide us some immunities, what part of the immune system might vaccines be lowering? Or what part of the immune system might be depressed by vaccines? I mean, to me, that's a total common sense question. And shockingly, there is not one single research study that I've ever seen published that actually does immune analyses of babies and children. Check, you do blood tests every few months or every year throughout their childhood to examine the immune system to see what, how vaccines might be affecting their immune system. And then you also check a group of kids that don't get vaccines and you look at their immune systems. They completely bypass that part of the research. I mean, it's total common sense. If you're going to create, 12 vaccines and give them to children throughout their childhood, do at least one immune system study on, 10,000 of these kids so we can examine what happens to their immune system. And shockingly, no one's done it. The only study they've done is they've done just like examining groups of children, like look at 1,000 children as a group, and are those children getting sick much? Do their immune systems seem healthy from outward appearances? That's all they've done. They haven't done any internal microbiological or immunological research on these kids, and if they have, they haven't published it. Some things we vaccinate against, like pneumococcal disease or Hib disease, there are many different strains of those diseases. And we're just picking the most common strains to vaccinate against to try to eliminate them from our population. And the downside of that is other strains that we're not vaccinating against will then increase and become a bigger problem. And we're basically starting a battle against a species of microbes, trying to suppress some of them, but allowing other ones to grow. And it's just going to sort of escalate more and more when we keep expanding the vaccine to try to cover all the expanding, variations, of that one microbe. Where does it end? Where does it end? And should we have started that battle to begin with? It's a very good question. I don't know what the right answer is. It's on the contrast of that, you take something such as chickenpox, where there's only one strain, and there's only one kind of chickenpox, and it doesn't really vary. There aren't multiple strains of it. So if we go after it, same is true of smallpox. If we know we go after a single strain type of germ, we know that that's all we're fighting. And it's a pretty easy battle to eventually win. But it's not true with the multi-strain organisms. Like the two I mentioned, Hib and pneumococcal disease. Same with HPV, human papillomavirus. We're starting a battle against a multi-strain organism. Might end up creating more problems than we're solving by allowing other strains to thrive and multiply because they're not part of the vaccine. What other strains does that include? I don't know if I can't remember off the top of my head, but we're already seeing some mutations and variations in the whooping cough germs. We're trying to eliminate whooping cough with the vaccine, but already some of the whooping cough germs are now resisting the vaccine. So now what do we do? Now do we change the vaccine to try to accommodate that change in whooping cough as a germ? I don't know. So we're messing with Mother Nature. We're messing with these natural balances in our Earth, all in the hopes of preventing illness, preventing death from illness, preventing those deaths from meningitis and those occasional deaths from whooping cough and deaths from chickenpox. That's really, I think, the whole reason. So we benefit by preventing deaths, but we are, messing with the natural balance of life and disease that's been on our planet for many thousands of years. So who's right and who's wrong? I don't know. You just got to look at the issues and make your decision.
That's great. How do you describe to your patients the difference between the bacteria in the gut and a lot of the bacteria that we are creating vaccines against, in terms of just explaining that in a nutshell so that they understand the difference? Because we get this heightened sense of panic about bacteria, thinking, oh my God, they're bad for us, that everything is aseptic and sanitized and kill 99.9% of the germs. I don't know, you kill 99.9%, you're going to leave the ones that are able to survive that. They tend to be the strongest to reproduce. You kill those, you're really creating superbugs. So, when you take an antibiotic soap, when you take antibiotic things that kill the germs all the time, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line with your patients in terms of recommending what kind of chemicals they bring into their home in terms of which is better to deal with, the chemicals or the germs that you have as household germs anyway that line the gut and the intestine for the baby anyway.
No, yeah, you're right. We are way too sterile. I never use hand sanitizer unless I just touched a kid who was, completely infectious with something, really, really problematic. I wash my hands with non-antibacterial soap, just regular soap and hot water. Um, I do think we do need all these germs. All these germs that are around us, they help us. They're healthy for us. We don't want to live in too sterile environment. You see, I have patients come into my exam rooms here, and then the mom, with her first child, won't let her child touch anything.
Right.
And she has hand sanitizer on her lap. The kid, touches the wall, and then she's sanitizing the kid's hand. I have a mom come in here with 3 kids, and the 3 kids are crawling around the floor. The mom could care less. And that mom's right. She doesn't need to worry about that. We need these germs. They're healthy for us. I think that the counter argument, though, is we need exposure to all these germs that are around us, but it's not fun when people get exposed to a meningitis germ.
Sure.
So 80 kids who catch meningitis are going to be fine, but 20 kids are going to die. Some of those kids might have brain damage. You don't want exposure to some of these germs.
Sure.
Because they put us at risk. And so they've singled out what germs those are, and the health, the medical establishment has tried to figure out what are the worst of those germs that we don't want to expose ourselves to, and we should try to eliminate from our population. And that's really how what's given rise to vaccines. We decided we need to get rid of smallpox because it isn't healthy to expose everyone to smallpox because of the fatalities. Same with polio. Same with the meningitis germs. Now, you could argue that some of the things we vaccinate against might not be that necessary, like chickenpox, hepatitis A, pretty harmless food poisoning illness. So I think we've created some battles that maybe we shouldn't, but I do agree with a lot of the vaccine battles that we've taken up because as humans, we decided we don't want to accept those fatalities that those diseases are creating, because no matter how healthy you are, there's always going to be those rare, chances that even a healthy person could succumb to an infectious disease. That's really, really why we're doing this. Again, you don't just automatically do it, though. I think you'd agree. You don't just automatically vaccinate with everything because that's what the medical establishment says. You need to educate yourself and understand the risks of vaccinating and the benefits you might gain from vaccinating, and to make an educated decision about it. And I show parents how to do it in a safer manner, in a way that slows the vaccines down, spreads them out, delays some of the vaccines that aren't that important when you're a little baby. And then I try to just point out what are the most important vaccines that parents should at least give some thought into getting and then consider getting, along with their doctor's guidance. And that's sort of what the book is about, how to pick and choose your vaccines in the safest manner possible so you can make an educated decision. Yeah, the pregnant women are supposed to get a flu vaccine during flu season, and they're supposed to get a whooping cough, tetanus pertussis vaccine during their pregnancy as well. The purpose of the flu vaccine is just to try to lower the pregnant mom's risk of catching the flu while she's pregnant. I don't agree with that practice. I think there's no safety research to back it up adequately, and I worry about injecting moms with foreign chemicals and immune-stimulating germs during pregnancy.
Don't they still use mercury with the flu vaccine?
Yeah, and most flu vaccines actually have mercury still. Some don't.
How much of that is okay for a fetal, for a baby in the womb?
None. So I'm not a fan of flu shots during pregnancy because of the mercury, largely. But even getting a mercury-free flu shot during pregnancy, I don't think there's the safety data to back up that practice. The whooping cough vaccine we give moms during pregnancy, That's actually designed to hopefully transmit some immunities against whooping cough to the newborn baby. Hopefully, the vaccine will give some immunity through the placenta into the baby so that the newborn baby can be born with some immunities against whooping cough. That's the logic behind there. And there's one research study that does show newborns who are born with a mom who had the whooping cough shot during pregnancy, that newborn is born with some whooping cough immunity. What we don't know is if it's enough immunity to help. We haven't taken it further to see if these babies are actually protected from whooping cough. We just know right now the vaccine does confer some immunity to the baby. But again, there's zero safety research.
Right. How would you know if a vaccine would be safe against whooping cough? How would you test that?
That's a great question. There's not any real way to guarantee safety of a vaccine 100%. We don't have we can't do internal tissue biopsies on people. We don't do very good studies or any studies of their immune systems. We can't test the insides of people to see how they're reacting to vaccines. We can only do external observational research and follow their health over time. And so we don't know for sure that the whooping cough vaccine is safe for these pregnant moms or for their unborn babies. And so that's why I don't recommend that any pregnant women get any vaccines while they're pregnant, just because we don't have the safety data to back it up.
Right. And you mentioned that if a mom, when she was an infant, had gotten whooping cough for the DTP vaccine, that there's really no research to show that it provides the immunity for the fetus or for the baby when the baby's born.
No, not years and years and years later. But that's why we offer the vaccine to a mom while she's pregnant. We give her that booster dose while she's pregnant. And let me tell you a little further. They don't just say get the vaccine during one pregnancy. They actually say get a whooping cough vaccine during every pregnancy, even if only 1 or 2 years has passed since your last dose, because they're trying to boost up your immunity so that it gets through into the unborn baby. And they're making this recommendation for all women nationwide without safety data.
Right.
And I have a huge problem with that.
I was going to say, do they test breast milk to see if there's any antibodies in the breast milk from a woman who got her second vaccine with 2 different children within a 4-year time period? I mean, is there anyone testing breast milk?
No, they're not testing the breast milk. No, they're just testing, whether, getting the vaccine while you're pregnant helps move on to the baby through the placenta, transplacental transmission. But it's we'll tell pregnant women don't take Tylenol without calling and checking her with your doctor. But we'll say, oh yeah, get a mercury shot,
right?
Get a whooping cough shot. Who cares? Because we just say we hope it's safe. And I don't buy that, and I don't like it. Well, yeah, we know that pesticides and other chemicals in non-organic foods, we know they kill brain cells. We know they cause cancer. We know they disrupt the hormone production that's constantly going on in our bodies. Those are things we don't want developing fetuses with developing brains to be exposed to.
Right.
And I think it's a huge problem. We've created a toxic planet now, and we need to clean it up. And don't get me started, but we need there's got to be changes that go on, because it is drastically affecting our health and our children's health. There's definitely, it's a polarizing issue. I think more and more pediatricians are becoming angry with parents that question vaccines, and they will only provide the regular vaccine schedule, and they're kicking parents out of their office if the parents don't comply with that schedule. I think it's becoming more difficult for parents to find pediatricians to work with them than it used to be. I would think that pediatricians would ease up and become more flexible, but I think it's actually going the opposite direction. At the same time, more and more parents are asking for doctors to be flexible and are looking for a different way to do this. And so I think more and more pediatricians are going to find themselves with fewer and fewer patients if pediatricians aren't willing to step out of their shell of I'm always right.
Why so staunch?
Work with these patients.
Is there anything from the American Academy or pediatricians or anything from the AMA that restricts or sanctions or does anything where does this mentality come from that the pediatricians, when their clients are asking for more options, are taking the route of providing less?
I don't know, because I don't think that way. So I don't know. I don't know why some doctors think that way. I'm not sure. But things are changing. More and more parents want vaccines done more gradually, more slowly, and if they can't find a doctor to do it, then these patients are going to just remain unvaccinated. They're just not going to vaccinate their kids at all. And I think if doctors are at least flexible enough to work with these patients, we can allow patients who want to vaccinate just in a more careful manner to go ahead and do so. I think my approach is actually help preserve vaccination rates and then allow parents to vaccinate if they want to, because it does it in a way that they feel more comfortable with. So I don't know. It's a huge issue. I just encourage parents to do the research, do the reading. Don't be afraid to ask questions and stand up for yourself, because in 48 states, vaccines are optional. And in Mississippi and West Virginia, they're not optional.
Because the environment's different there? I mean,
No, it's just the state laws. I know, yeah. The state laws.
They have different bacteria and viruses. That's amazing.
But in every other state of our country, vaccines are optional. And the school won't tell you that. Your doctor won't tell you that.
That's right.
Parents need to know that it's optional. You can do whatever you want, make an educated decision, read all the information you can, and don't let anyone bully you or talk you into believing that they're mandatory, because they're not. And then that's what my book and my presence on Facebook allows. Is I try to help give parents the guidance they need to make an educated decision.